Hi, I'm Teresa from Phoenix Gate Crafts, and I wanted to talk about yarn subscription boxes. It's a question that's been coming up a lot, pretty much constantly for the last several years. And I have gotten several different subscription boxes. Some have fit me very well, some really didn't fit my yarn needs. So I figured today I'd talk about some of the subscription boxes that I've had in the past and why I kept them and why I decided not to. So that way you get at least an understanding of my perspective and you can make a judgment for yourself based on your own yarn needs. So the one that comes up a lot and a lot of people hate it is darn good yarn. I know, starting off with a negative one. I'm gonna give you a spoiler. I didn't like it either. I didn't like it from the get-go. But the thing is, I love the company. They are wonderful. They really work hard providing jobs to women and helping get women out of dangerous situations. It is definitely a wonderful company. They also recycle silk, which is very good for the ecology of the world. So definitely a worthwhile company to invest in. But my philosophy is if you don't like what you're getting, don't spend your money on it. So this yarn didn't go well for me, but I can see how some people love this yarn. So darn good yarn. It's, I believe, $15 a month, and you get a hank or a ball of yarn and a little side gift. Excuse me. And the very first box you ever get is the same one every single time. So the first box is this rainbow colored yarn. It is thick and thin recycled silk rainbow colored variegated yarn. Because it's thick and thin, I already don't like it. I don't mind a rainbow yarn, but I prefer a longer stripe versus short variegated, especially with such different color tones. And it didn't feel very nice. The recycled silk, it's not like when you get actual fresh silk where you've got all the strands, they're the same length, they're spun together nice and neatly. This kind of has a cheap feel to it that, and you get this tiny little ball. So this little ball probably would cost about $10 or so if you purchased it individually. And the cool thing, the main reason I got it was it came with this hook and needle set. It's got 5mm wooden needles and a 5mm hook. Let's see if I can get this to focus. Probably not. Whoops. Anyway, this was before I realized I didn't like wooden knitting needles, but this is actually what prompted me to learn how to knit. So it wasn't bad in the long run, it just really isn't my thing. So I didn't like it, but they're a great company, so I decided to go for a second box. I didn't like it either. By the way, this is 2018, so it's been over 2 years that I've had these two items. But I decided, these were my school colors, except their purple was more of a royal purple. I didn't like it. I still haven't used this. This is fingering weight recycled silk. And I really can't use it because most of the time I use fingering weight for socks or a shawl, and this isn't enough for a shawl. This is a very small ball of yarn. I made some bookmarks with it. They were pretty ugly and unimpressive. The student I gave it to was very polite when they received it. I could tell it wasn't really her thing either. So I got one more box, giving them the benefit of a doubt. I usually, with yarn subscription boxes, they can have an off month and then the whole rest of the year will be great. So if you don't like one at first, give it a couple of months, 2 or 3, to make sure you genuinely don't like it. The third box was also silk. This one, I'm not sure if it was recycled or not. It didn't seem to have the thick and thin issue as much as the previous two. But it was dye your own yarn. And by the way, your first dyeing project should not be silk. Silk takes a really long time to bind to any kind of color. So it's not a very good first dyeing project. If you're going to get into dyeing, I really do recommend superwash wool. It picks up the color beautifully and you get kind of what you're picturing. Then you can move on to non-superwash, and from there you can get into the alpaca and the silks that take longer to bind. But the benefit to this box is that I found chemnits, admittedly several months after I decided to stop getting this box. So ultimately, darn good yarn, I decided not to go for it. Some people love it. I was not one of them. But hey, to each his own. And if this is something, if you like thick and thin yarn, if you really like the cause and the yarn isn't something you hate, I do highly recommend getting it. It's not a bad price every month, and you get something a little different each time. It just wasn't for me. Overlapping with my Darn Good Yarn subscription, I got Annie's Hook and Needle Club. I think they might have since then split it, so you can get a crochet club and a knitting club separately. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, and I don't remember how much it cost. Probably 15 to 20 bucks when I was getting it. And it was, in terms of what you got, a good value. You always got 3 balls of yarn and an appropriate project for your balls, usually single skein projects. So the first one I got was this Stonewash Yarn that you also got 3 knitting and 3 crochet washcloth projects. So pretty much the only one that I used is the seed stitch in knitting. This is actually the project I used to learn how to knit. And this was actually one of my first projects that wasn't knit garter or purl garter. So these subscription boxes, even if they weren't things that I particularly liked immediately, at least there was a benefit to them that was secondary. Particularly the Darn Good Yarn, because it caused me to pick up knitting and it caused me to pick up another hobby. I got 2 hobbies out of it, even if I didn't care for the yarn. And I actually really liked this blue color. Unfortunately, they also had a greenish yellow and a bright orange that I didn't care for, that I wound up making some more of these and gave them away. The next box I got after that, though, I've got like my big old pile, was this yarn. It's a size 5 bulky, and it's in gray and some kind of ugly blue. It doesn't even say the name of the color. They're both 3.5 ounces, 100 grams. They're 25% wool, 75% acrylic, and the pattern was a small, a medium, and a large basket project. You'll notice that this basket, however, I did the crochet one. You also got knit option. It doesn't stand and it kind of folds in on itself. Ignore what's inside. Those are Christmas presents. It was 2018 when I got this. I made 1 basket, barely used it because it's a bit small and it doesn't hold itself up. And I still have 2 balls of yarn. And I really don't like neutrals. I'm not a neutral person. My house is neutral, but that's because I like the bright stuff that I can put in it that play off the neutrals. But for the most part, my knitting and crochet, if you haven't noticed, is not neutral. After that, I got 2 more crates or packs or whatever. I don't remember what the third one was, but the last one was, again, washcloths. Though they called these ones spa cloths, they're just big washcloths. And they gave me a brownish gray, white, and a light blue cotton yarn. The yarn itself isn't bad, it's just very neutral. And I didn't particularly care for the colors, to the extent that 2 years later, I still have them and I still don't like them. So after getting 4 months of Annie's Hook and Needle Club, I decided to stop getting them. Finances were getting a little tight at that time, and I personally believe that you should really like it if you're spending money on it. So overlapping with that, pretty much when I finished Darn Good Yarns, maybe a month after, I'm not sure, I signed up for Yarn Crush and Knit Crate. Now, Yarn Crush has since been absorbed into Knit Crate. So I'm not going to talk about it very much, especially since Yarn Crush and Knit Crate were virtually the same thing. They were the same price point, the same quality of yarn. I liked them both a lot. Spoiler warning. No warning. Too late. Anyway, I liked them both a lot. They were a bit more expensive. So I believe both of them were $25 a month for the regular crate and $20 a month for the sock crate. So I'm not going to bother with talking about Yarn Crush because they don't exist anymore and you couldn't get it if you wanted to. You just get a Knit Crate. So Knit Crate, so they used to operate a little differently than they do now. When I first got them in 2018, the late half of 2018, I think my first one was like October 2018 or something around there. You basically had your sock crate and the knit crate as your 2 options. So the regular knit crate is $25 a month, $24.99, but that's just oddball pricing. It's really $25 a month. You get 2 skeins of yarn, each of which usually retails at about $25. So you get double the value of the crate. Plus you get a little side thing as well. A little handy tool or something that's little, usually worth a couple of bucks. So I think it's really great value for what you get. I initially got the sock crate because what I really liked was knitting socks. I was just getting into knitting socks. So having the sock crate and getting 1 skein of sock yarn, so fingering weight, good for socks. Usually the sock crate was $20 and usually the yarn in it was worth about $25. So you got $5 savings right there. And you again got a little gift of some sort. Pretty good value considering a good sock yarn typically runs anywhere from $12 a skein to $40 a skein. You can really spend a lot on a hank of sock yarn. So, and both crates, by the way, ship for free in the United States. No shipping and handling. And I don't believe you wind up getting charged tax or anything either. I liked them, but at the time you really couldn't choose your color palette. You got pretty much whatever they were getting. They usually had options, but you couldn't choose your color option. They had multiple yarns. You got whatever you got. And that was all fine and good until December 2018. This is the color that they advertised. This was the color picture for the yarn that you were supposed to be sent. Don't look at this side, but look at this. This is kind of, it's even showing up a bit more red. It's kind of an orangey red in the picture. So going back to this one, this is what they pictured it as. This is what I got. So this photo was not color accurate. I wouldn't have minded this color. It's very Christmassy, kind of having an orange red, not a big deal. I do not like this orangey pinkish color. That's kind of a salmon color that I got. The yarn isn't bad. It's a good texture, and it's just the color is terrible and I hated it. I sent an email to Knit Crate being like, you know, I know this is hand dyed. I know there's some variation. Is it possible for me to get, you know, trade in this skein for one that's a little closer to the picture? And they said, no, the colors in the picture are not accurate to the actual skeins. I'm kind of stuck with this. And I was like, okay. I wound up getting one more month, and then my financial situation was such that I couldn't afford it anymore. I wound up taking a break from Knit Crate and Yarn Crush. And while I was on break in 2019, they wound up purchasing the Yarn Crush box and becoming one company. Also, while I was on break during the summer of 2019, Knit Crate probably was getting tired of all the complaints they were getting in terms of people not really liking the colors they were being given. So they changed something that was pretty much the reason I stopped getting it. That reason being, you could now choose your color profile. So you didn't get to choose the yarn specifically that you got in the crate, but you could choose if you liked cool tones, warm tones, neutral tones, or a true surprise me where you got kind of whatever. And I like that so much better. So at this point, when I resubscribed near the end of 2019, in the second half of 2019, I decided to go with cool tones because I'm a peacock. My favorite colors are blue, green, and purple in that order, the same colors that are in a peacock's tail. So, and I have loved every single box. I haven't used it all, but I have loved it. I love this Vitellana chainette yarn. I love this. I have no idea what I'm going to use it on, but it's absolutely gorgeous. These are two Knitology Brooklyn Boy Knits. They're two different skeins, but they work together very well. I didn't like the patterns. Oh, by the way, all of these kits, you get patterns as well. I didn't like the patterns that these went, but I did like these and the colors of them. I decided to go with the regular Knit Crate because sometimes you get DK, sometimes you get sport, sometimes you get worsted. And I really liked that variety because I'm very niche in what I buy. I like fingering weight and I like worsted weight. That's typically the two I get for myself. So having DK, so if I do get a pattern in DK, at least I have some yarn for that. I typically buy superwash merino wool with some nylon. I might get a cashmere blend, or I'll get acrylic and worsted. So getting something that is like this Knitology glowing worsted in the color C, which is superwash merino wool, silk, and alpaca. I mean, this is absolutely lovely yarn. Super soft, and it'll be very drapey when I finally work it up. One month. This is actually my favorite of them all. I've gotten two of these over time. I'm not sure if the first one was Knit Crate or Yarn Crush, but I didn't like it the first time I got it because I wasn't doing cables or anything that required color coding. But this is handy because you can totally color code your patterns if you print them out. I also wound up getting this, which is a circle of pins. I have also received, let's see, I put them over here. This giant button, not my style, but typically a button of this nature costs $7 or $8, sometimes 10 to 15 or 20 for one button. So a good value, even if it's not my style, though I might use it at some point. Or these handmade buttons. Well, I don't know if the buttons are handmade, but they say handmade. Or some little pins. I'm not much of a pin person, but these are cute with the little Knit Crate emblem. So, and I got one that was also in black and white. So some pretty neat things that I've received as well. And you know, most of them are only worth a couple of bucks, maybe 10 at most. And you know that Knit Crate probably made a deal with the creators of these things so that they got them for free. But all in all, I think it's been a really good value. I like getting something that's a little different each month. I like being surprised, but if you don't, you can look at the sneak peek that they do every month for the upcoming month. And you can change your subscription if you like one color better than another. As long as you make that change before the beginning of the month. I like having the surprise. It feels like a birthday present every month when I get it. And I'm not sponsored. I'm doing this because I genuinely like it. So you might like it. You might find that this isn't really your style. You don't care for it. In which case, don't get it. But if you think this is something you'd like, you know, or if you're on the fence, maybe try it for a month and see if it fits you. If it's me, I like it. Anyway, I hope this helped answer a few questions. I hope my story explained that you don't have to be stuck with something you don't like. And yeah. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.